Hi, everybody. I'm Brian.
And I'm Joey's brother, Broy.
Thanks a lot. That's Travis, folks. If you're new to the podcast, this is the podcast where we talk about gravel bikes, adventure biking, bikepacking, bike camping, or just playing bikes. And as Travis just mentioned, Joey is off this week, but the show must go on. So joining me is our very, very good friend, Mr. Travis Olson, and we are going to talk about GRUSK. Welcome, Travis, to the program. I'm so happy to have you here.
I can't be more happy to be here, Brian. I'm missing Joey a little bit, but, like you said, the show must go on. Let's talk about fun things and bikes.
Well, Joey is missing in action, so if anybody knows where Joey is, please tell him to stay there, because that'll be just fine. No, we all know exactly where he is. He's just taking a little R&R and having a good time, and we're going to hear all about all of his adventures next week, I'm sure. Before we begin to talk about GRUSK and dive into climbing up that knob, we're going to do a couple of quick housekeeping items. Over on GTD After Hours, if you don't know what GTD After Hours, it is the best and only way to support the podcast for just $5 a month. And Travis, you're there, just $5 a month. You can join in the fun of our Discord server. I just released the YouTube video of our first meetup that we did in Warm Springs, where my bike blew up and got destroyed. But happy note, it's all put back together now and running like a champ. So I was very excited to actually get that all put back together in relatively simple fashion. It was just swapping out the derailleur, a little B limit work, and had set the highs and the lows, and just let the DI2 do its thing, and it just set itself up. So I had to replace the hanger, the chain, and the derailleur. Wasn't cheap.
Wow, it's just money.
Was not cheap. It was very, very expensive. But at the same time, it's nice when it's easy, because I didn't have to go to a shop or didn't have to bug Joey. It all just came right back together. And have you seen the video yet, Travis? Have you watched I don't know how the Frank got below the beans. I don't
know either. I even watched it and tried to watch it in slow mo. I was like, how did that happen?
So one of the things I think may have happened is on that derailleur, I do some things with that setup that you're not really supposed to do. I'm running a bigger rear cassette than you're supposed to with the 2x GRX Di2. And I have to make sure that I'm in sync mode, so that if before the chain goes too far up the rear when I'm on the big ring, it drops down and synchro shifts. But one of the things that's always been weird is the engaging of the clutch. And I've always had to leave the clutch off, which gets a lot of chain slap. And I'm wondering if that contributed to a part of that, because the stick, like Bill said, the stick stood straight up and got sucked right in the derailleur. Well, if that chain is bouncing, I can see where that chain could have reached down and grabbed it. And
and you're probably in one of your middle gears, so it wasn't as much tension on the chain as you would have been if you were climbing, and you might have been fine and kept the Frank above the beans.
But what's so interesting is that now I put all of this together, and I'm now able to engage the clutch. Made the change the exact same length. I don't know. I could have set up the sync different, where it's it steps sooner rather than later. I need to really dig into why that is. It could be I don't have the B limit or the B screw set at the same place. There's a lot of weird little things, but I was excited when I flipped the clutch and it was able to actually do it. And I've been out on a couple of rides on the bike, and it seems to be fine. So we're gonna let that be. But friends, GTD After Hours, we have conversations just like this. Honestly, that's really what we do over there. And we've just added our first new channel thanks to Father Dave. Father Dave wanted a birding channel. So we now have a birding channel. So take your pictures of your owls.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff we're doing.
That's when you know you're getting closer over 50. You buy a titanium bike and you watch birds.
And now's a great time to buy a titanium frame from Linsky. Sorry to say.
It really is. It's sad to see that happen.
For folks that don't know, Linsky's having some bankruptcy issues, and they've put just about every frame is now on sale on their website. So if you're looking for titanium, this might be a good time to go visit the Linsky website and see if there's something that strikes your fancy. I just feel bad for all those folks that are trying to sell their Linskys on Facebook Marketplace right now.
Yeah, not happening.
That's got to stink.
Yep,
okay.
It absolutely does.
Let us dive into GRUSK, where this is the point, Travis, where I'm going to let you take over the show. So 2026 is the 10th anniversary of GRUSK. So looking back at that year one, did you ever imagine that this event would evolve from that grassroots kind of a race into what I think is a premier multi-day mountain festival? Let's just call it what it is.
Not really, not to the extent that it has. I think when you're starting an event, especially the first year, you're not looking to, make it a huge professional UCI gravel event. That wasn't even on the radar. It was really just to survive the first year, not get punched in the mouth, because I screwed something up, and there were a million things that I screwed up. And it still happens every year. But that first year, we had 113 riders, and I thought that was a lot. Now we're looking at 500 to 600, and that's a lot.
That is a lot for a first year event.
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
I think that's tremendous.
Yeah, we were pretty happy with that number, especially as remote as GRUSK is. I think it helps being so close to, we're in the mid-Atlantic, and it takes folks from D.C. or Virginia. Richmond is a little bit further out, but the folks from D.C., Northern Virginia, they can get there in the same time as it takes me to get there from where I am in North Central West Virginia. Yeah. So I think that really added to the success of the event, just the proximity of millions of people.
I think it's also, when I look at GRUSK and when I look at Spruce Knob, there's something that's kind of magical about the highest peak in West Virginia to me.
Yeah, and I've used that term a lot, because when you're up there and you're at Experience Learning's Spruce Knob Mountain Center, and especially if you're there for the morning or the evening, when everything quiets down and the you have the twilight or you have the sunrise coming up, it truly is a magical place. And I think we're going to talk about dark skies and radio quietness later in the show, but that adds to the magic, because you're there with either your friends or your new friends, or maybe even just your thoughts, and it's a really cool experience.
I will say this: I have met people at GRUSK that I now call very close friends, and I talk with frequently, and have done other events with them, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's jump over. I mean, what's this radio quiet zone near Green Bank Observatory? So folks that don't know what that is, Travis, explain to them what that's all about.
So the radio quiet zone was established, I think it was back in the 40s or 50s, and what it essentially did was provide a radio signal free zone, like these ever expanding circles, where the tighter you get in that circle around Green Bank, West Virginia, where they've established a national radio observatory. And this is used to, it's used for radio astronomy, but it's also used to pick up, distant radio signals of what could be, extraterrestrial life. We
First
have
contact. This is what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And I think they're releasing the documents. It probably has already happened. We're probably living with aliens. Hopefully they ride gravel and want to come hang out at GRUSK. But that radio quiet zone it's really meant to lessen or really eliminate all interference from other outside radio signals, so they can get a clear image of the sky. And their instrumentation is so sensitive that even turning your cell phone on to take a picture, it could ruin someone's experiments that they have going on during that time. So, as some of our longer routes pass through there, you have to be very careful and cognizant of that, because it's a law. It's written into law that you can't even own a microwave within a certain mile radius of the town of Green Bank. It's really wild.
Didn't they just recently, I thought I heard, and I may be making this up, that they relaxed some of that a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah. So you can now have Wi-Fi, but it's only up to 2.5G. You can't have your 5G Wi-Fi. Okay. But cell signals are still a no-no. But, the Wi-Fi seems to, they must have a way to tune that out, or to recognize that and eliminate that from their,
so much stuff
experiments.
Now, yeah, that 2.4 gigahertz, there's so much stuff operates on that frequency now. I mean, public service, everything. Microwaves even spit out 2.4 gigahertz. I can see where that would be something that almost have to figure out how to block, or how to do something with. And in a world where we're always connected, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not coming down on being connected, because I do it as well. And I think now we get a little bit like antsy when we're not connected, because we're I don't know how to say it. That idea of being connected to people that you need to be in connection with, I think has become very ingrained in who we are now. But how
Hmm.
does that forced unplugging kind of change the culture of the event? Because you really are sort of unplugged when you're up there in that field.
Yeah, you really are. What I've seen is it forces people to hang out and talk to each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's rare. Even at a gravel event where you might have a 2 or 3 minute conversation with someone you were riding with, and you're going to meet new people. That's just the nature of gravel and cycling events in general. But this keeps the phone out of your hand, and it if you like to talk to people, it's going to really make you want to talk to people because there's just so many people around, and that's your outlet for
Yeah.
that moment,
Yeah.
and that lends to the magic of the whole experience, especially if you stay the entire weekend because you're talking to everybody, and hopefully people you come a camp and you make the rounds, because what has happened at Grusk up in the field is it's its own thing. It's
Yeah.
it's it's
Yeah.
it's a part of Grusk, but it's separate from
Yeah.
Grusk,
Yeah.
especially the after parties because everyone goes to their little tribal camps. People or people you've met, and sometimes you just need to grab your bottle of whatever and walk around and just make the rounds and go meet new people. And I
I
did that last year, and it was a little bit crazy. It
I
was a fun time.
I had a friend that was up there, and he actually brought like a beach cruiser and used it to kind of
Yeah.
just like mill about in the
Yeah.
fields. And it was like I'm sitting there thinking, because Travis, you and I have talked about this. I'm building myself a new, and this is news to everybody on the podcast. I'm building myself a new bikepacking rig that is going to be Mon Forest capable. I
Yes.
don't really think the Otso has got. I think there's some things about my Workin that would not lend itself well to venturing in deep into the forest. So maybe I'll bring that if it's ready. I hope it's going to be ready because I think
I hope so.
I'm hopeful that I'm going to take it to the bikepacking roots summit in Marlinton,
Oh, good.
which is a couple weeks off. So I'm hopeful
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
bike's
May
going to be ready for
29th.
that. Yeah, so
Yep.
maybe I'll bring all my bikes and,
Well,
and
good.
just use
Yeah.
them to fiddle around the field with. It would be the perfect bike for that. So
I can't wait to see it.
folks may not know what we're talking about when we talk about the whole of this weekend thing. I want to give sort of like the big picture of the whole weekend. So you've got, and I want to break it down into sort of the 1 day races, which are what happens on Saturday. And then you've got multi-day bikepacking races. So let's start with what the festival distances in those 1 day races. When should folks come in to the center? When is the event, and when should they leave?
So that's a really good question. And I think for the past 2 or 3 years, I'm really encouraging people to get there early because, I rent the venue. So we have 500 acres to play on, and we have these really cool yurts. And if you don't know what a yurt is, well, go to our Facebook page and you'll see what the yurts are. Or, they borrow those from Mongolian nomadic, tents and that
Very
design.
cool. Very
But
cool.
but we get there Wednesday. We roll up in a huge U-Haul truck and start unloading and setting up our own tents and setting up base camp for everything Grusk for the entire weekend. So we're getting there Wednesday, and we have people who are doing the longer rides on Wednesday. But what we're encouraging folks to do who are maybe just coming for the shorter, like the 89 mile and less rides,
Mm-hmm.
is to show up maybe Thursday afternoon. Go get some riding in. There's so much amazing riding in the area. Even if you have to maybe drive a little bit and go down to the town of Durban, which is close. And, there's a beautiful rail trail that goes out of Durban, and there's so many other beautiful areas that you can explore. And, now we have the Mon Forest Gravel and Bikepacking Network that I work with David Landis and Bikepacking Roots to help develop. And it really is a keystone and a pathway into
Mm-hmm.
everything the Mon has to offer. So we're encouraging people to come early to get back to
Okay.
your your original question. So maybe Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, get your camp set up. relax, come hang out, come get registration set up, get your packet, and then go hang out and meet people. Now, I will mention that, if you're one of the first 50 people to come to Grusk, you'll probably have some Wi-Fi and cell service. But as soon as 51 gets there, you're done. The bandwidth shuts down and no one's getting that internet access. So that's usually how that works. You'll see everybody on their phone, and then all of a sudden it's like, and then it's like, okay, now I got to talk to people. All right. This is what we're doing all weekend.
Well, I think Starlink is starting to invade our quiet spaces.
Yeah, it is.
And that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. And it works at, it does work where we are. Now, when you get closer to Greenbank, it worked 3 years ago, and then Greenbank found out that it was working 3 years ago, and now Starlink has, kind of cordoned that spot off.
Okay.
So it's not supposed to work. I haven't taken Starlink down there to try it. I'll try to respect their
You mentioned, I'm on a side
quietness.
quest for just a minute. You mentioned the little rail trail that goes out of Durban. Now, that's not Greenbrier. There's another little trail that goes, and I've ridden that as a part of the Allegheny Mountains Loop, and it's wonderful. It really is, and it's beautiful. It is a gorgeous little trail, and a little rough around the edges in places. There's some grass sections, but wow, it's a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it gets some horse traffic, and it doesn't get the love like some of the rail trails that are, in more populated areas, but it's spectacular. It flows along two streams. It flows along. So, it's not the birthplace of rivers that West Virginia has. That's closer to Snowshoe, where, you have the Potomac and the Cheat and the Greenbrier rivers. But this is the headwaters of the West Fork of the Greenbrier River. So it's not the Greenbrier Rail Trail, which that's a state treasure. That we're lucky to have. This is it's called the West Fork Trail.
West Fork. I knew it had a directional thing in there, but I couldn't quite remember what it was. And I remember the little town of Durban. There's this cute little cafe that was almost like right across the street from where that trail started. If I remember, hopefully they're still there. There wasn't much else going on there in Durban when I was there. Hopefully it's kind of getting a little steam, maybe.
It is. So Durban is it's one of the places that I love in the Mon. It's one of my favorite places, and I'd love to have a place there, maybe someday. Yeah. But it's growing. We have some people who have moved in and around Durban who are starting to like move and shake a little bit. So there's another cafe, another sweet shop, and there's another restaurant, another bar. There's a great campground right in Durban. So our long courses go through Durban. So a lot of folks overnight there. There's some Airbnb options as well as the campground. Excellent. So there are opportunities for folks who, when we start talking about the longer routes of Grusk, a lot of folks break it up and they'll do a reasonable 100 to 110 miles in camp and then do the other little bit longer, harder loop to the north.
I believe that's what Larry's plan is. I know that Larry's looking at doing the 220. But I want to jump ahead. What are the distances that we have for the festival? When I say festival, it's like that. These are the one-day things that happen on Saturday.
Yeah. So we have our shortest is 25 miles, and that's the most direct route from the venue to the summit and back. We'll have an aid station set up for that. So at the summit, and we'll also have a little bit of aid station on the way back, with our EMS folks who are at the base of the climb. We also have a more adventurous version, which is our 33-mile version. So that's essentially the same route as the 25-mile, but you get the infamous, notorious, amazing grassy downhill. So
grassy descent.
It's taken a few collarbones, but it's also produced a ton of smiles. Last year was especially terrible.
I think if you just say, I am not going to bomb grassy descent, and you have like a little intervention video for yourself, and you tell yourself that you will love the grassy descent. I have in the past. And I look forward to again this year. But if you decide you're going to run down that thing, woo, watch out.
Yeah. You were there in a wet year, so you've probably seen some of the worst of it. But last year we had some torrential downpours, and it actually made like a foot deep rut, and it caught some folks off guard. And then our EMS crew put some cones like in it, so you could see it, and
Okay.
that seemed to help save the day, because you can get smoking down through there and it'll sneak up on you. But
Yeah.
that's the
100%.
33-mile route. The 50-mile route, which is the sweet spot. If I was going to
100%.
recommend a route, and I would hold this route up to almost any route in the Mon. That 50-mile route is so good.
Yes, it is.
So it starts from the venue, and every route climbs to the summit first. And you may be wondering, well, why aren't we finishing on the summit, Travis? I mean, Broy. And I'm gonna and I'm gonna tell you, well, you're getting the best experience by climbing this first with fresh legs, and you get to take your time. Pressure's off. You can go up there, have a snack, go to the observation overlook, climb the observation overlook. You can see Virginia on a nice day. And then go back down and ride the rest of your route. But it's also for safety, because in the mountains, if you've been in the mountains for any length of time, storms build in the mountains in the afternoon. Past 2:00, it becomes very dangerous to be above 4,000 feet, especially with little to no tree cover. So I made the decision to move that to the morning to avoid some of that.
Smart.
Yeah,
because I know you used to run it at the end.
It was, and
ago.
it was a challenge, but we've also had some close calls with lightning up there. And when you can feel that metallic taste in your mouth, lightning's somewhere close and it's time to go down. So it's interesting, or your fillings are humming. There's electricity in the air, and it's time to get in your car or get out of there.
As a fisherman, you feel the fiberglass rods crackle in your hands.
But yeah, I bet
that's something I felt before. And then you put it down,
especially on the ocean.
You go.
Yep. Yeah, because it's probably the same where you are. Flat land out on the
you're out on the water.
Or yep. But that's our 50-mile route. I would hold that up to anything. We have an amazing 8-mile downhill on Dry Fork
glorious.
Road.
It is glorious.
You can pedal if you want. A lot of it you don't have to pedal. Now there are a few little uphills and false flats and things like that, but it's one of my favorite downhills in the state. Most of it's gravel now. They've the pavement keeps creeping its way up towards Spruce every 5 years or so. So we lose a little bit of gravel. We did last year, but it's such a good descent. And then you get to the town of Whitmer, where we have an aid station at the fire hall. Those people at the fire hall are so amazing. They've supported this event from day one. They have a crew up at the top or the bottom of the grassy downhill for obvious reasons, but they also let us use their fire hall. And they just had a brand new expansion last year, and it's a brand new fire hall, and it's amazing. They actually have a bathroom, which is incredible. And then you get to wind your way up Gandy Creek, some of the best fishing in the state, up to Spruce Knob Lake, where we have another aid station, and then you finish out your day for the 50-miler. The 89-miler just adds another 30 miles on, and that goes over to, what I call our Western Territory, like over toward the West Fork Rail Trail. So you're actually on some of that, but there's a road that parallels called Beulah Road that parallels the rail trail. So we send riders on that road instead of the rail trail, because the experience is just as good. And I think sometimes it's a little bit easier to ride than the rail trail, especially if there's, been a lot of wet in the season, or there's been a lot of horse traffic on it, or it hasn't been cut in a while. So I think the road offers a little bit better experience. But folks will love that. You get a little more climbing there. But you also get a really cool, another cool aid station, Laurel Fork Campground, which is another great place to camp if you're out there bikepacking and looking for a great place to camp.
And
National I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, from an elevation perspective, rules apply. It's like 100 feet per mile.
Yeah. A little bit less and a little bit more. I think most of them are right around. That seems to be common for West Virginia, even where I live. It's 100 feet per mile walking out the door.
Yeah.
Very doable, though. But I will say the climbs of Grusk aren't that steep. I think the steepest climb, we have a steep one over on the 89 mile that gets up out of the last aid station back up to Middle Mountain Ridge. And we have a steep little jaunt that goes back in that last mile going back into the venue.
Mm-hmm.
You make that turn and go through the gate at the venue, and it gets steep, and that'll hurt a little bit.
Especially right at the end. Yeah, that'll get you. It's like, why'd you put this here?
Yeah,
who put this hill here? Because you don't recognize, you don't realize it when you're driving in.
No, you don't.
And you've got all that adrenaline when you're going out, so you're not really paying that much attention to it either.
Yeah.
And it catches you off guard when you turn, make that turn through the gate, and there's that traffic control. You all do such a great job of controlling the traffic because there's like you're coming in and there may be cars coming out and there's not a lot of room. You're holding people up. So, but yeah, it's a little steeper than you might remember. It kind of gets you a little bit.
Yeah, there's no shame in walking that piece. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people taking their bikes for a walk up that hill.
Yeah, I think the last time I did it, there was a young girl that was we were kind of riding along, and she had a few choice words for that hill as we were going up it, about it being so close to the end and why was this here. Okay, so that covers the one day. Like, hopefully you've come in on Thursday night or Friday, you've had a little bit of good time, you've done your event on Saturday, and then we'll talk. You're going to want to stay Saturday night because the party Saturday night
absolutely
is a not to be missed. Even if you just hang out in the field and listen to the music, which I've done, I think once or twice. We just stayed up at the top of the hill, and you can hear everything that's going on. So you don't have to get in the melee, but the melee, I understand, is quite interesting and lively as well. So whatever your flavor
the melee is up on the hill too. There's a section of the hill that I think is called the litter box or something like that, where two bike clubs have joined forces and formed a Voltron of fun.
Okay.
So, and I think you know who I'm talking about. I won't dime them out here, but they're wonderful people and some of my best friends, and they have a good time up there. But yeah, it's a natural amphitheater, so you can actually sit at your tent up in the field where the camping is and listen to the music. So that's another big part of the festival atmosphere. We have live music Friday and Saturday, along with flowing beer taps from a trailer. It's wonderful.
Now people may be thinking it's July, and I don't want to camp or sleep in a tent in July. But you're at 4,000 feet, and it is quite pleasant. So you're going to leave all that city heat and humidity behind. And it's quite lovely. Honestly, it's quite lovely up there at elevation.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm glad you said that, because it's a good warning to listeners. I'll be glad to sell you a hoodie. Because it doesn't catch everybody. I think people who've been doing this know it now. And, you obviously get it because you've been in the mountains, even in summer, but it can be in the 50s at night, or even cooler with a breeze. And if you're not prepared, it will get chilly. So we encourage everyone to bring some thermals and a jacket, and maybe a hat.
A hat too, something. If you're sleeping in a tent, you get a lot of vans and little mini campers and stuff up there in that field. So there's plenty of room for that kind of stuff too, folks, if that's your jam. But if you're sleeping in a tent, you might get a little chilly at night in July. Don't be surprised.
It's good sleeping.
So now let's pay attention for just a few minutes to these multi-day bikepacking races that you've got in play. I just want to march them off real quick, and then you can tell us about each one of them. You got the Venti, which is 220 miles, a little bit less than that 100 feet per mile, about 18,000 feet of elevation.
Yeah, it's easy.
The Lungo, which is 260 miles, 22,000 feet of elevation. And then the Tricento, which is a whopping 319 miles, friends, with 26,000 feet of elevation. Where did all of the idea for the multi-day bikepacking races come in? Where did that come from?
I think it was watching, I started to watch the Tour Divide, and it could have even been from... I'll be honest, it could have even been from listening to your podcast. And it
we're to blame.
Because I'm still not a bike packer. I'm a bike packer by proxy. I'm a kind of a poser. I want to do it. I just never seem to get the legs and the time to go out and really put it out there and bike pack, just short little jaunts. Larry and I have been out once and,
Hey, the sub 24 hours, the 30 miles out and the 30 miles back, or the 60-mile loop, those are some of the absolute best times. So we're talking about these big, long, arduous, ultra endurance style things, but I don't want folks to get the wrong idea. Bikepacking is not just that. It's something that can be much smaller and much more intimate, and that's a great way to kind of entree into it. But these big things are something different.
Yeah. We started with it was 140 miles, and at that point in time, I thought that was a long way, and we had people just crush it. It was like just
it's a one and done day.
Probably 8 hours. Maybe it was under 10 hours, but there's some animals out there, and they just crushed it. But we also had some people who it was up to Davis, the town of Davis, Thomas and Davis, and back. So you're getting some really nice roads, and you're getting the Blackwater Canyon Trail if you've ever ridden that. If you haven't, I highly suggest it. It's beautiful. But that's where it all started. And, we had people asking for more. So I introduced the 220 and, did a lot of scouting work to stitch that together and using some, there are some obvious corridors in this part of the Mon, and it's hard to not overlap with other routes. So the Allegheny Mountain Loop shared some of that up through the Middle Mountain area, and, up into Davis and that area. So, I stood on the shoulders of giants to create part of that and borrow some of their route for the 220. And they all share a little bit of that Allegheny Mountain Loop trail, but that's how that got started. And then, every year people want a little bit more. I have someone, itching to do 500 this year. So we're trying to, stitch something together for a very select few people who might be able to do that within 3 days. And I think there's probably more than a select few, but there's a couple folks who've been coming every year, and they want to see GRUSK grow, and they want to see, they also want to see, test themselves and, see what's else is out there in the Mon National Forest. It's an amazing place to ride.
Yeah. 100%. So the 319, is, how long have you been doing the 319?
That, you see, I'm trying to remember if last year was the first year. I think we've been doing that for 2 years. This will be the third year for that.
Okay.
I should remember, but my 50-plus-year-old brain, I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
I know how that goes. I'm lucky. I've got a whole bunch of show notes right in front of me right here that I'm looking at when I'm talking to you. So, and I just ask questions, and then you have to come up with all the answers.
I probably have to go back and look at the results to remind myself, I've been doing that for 2 years.
That's a big effort.
It's a huge effort.
That is, and what is the typical amount of time? Is that a 3 day, or do you have folks that are crushing that in 2?
So I have a couple folks who are crushing that in a little over 1 day, like just over the 24-hour mark.
Wow.
It was amazing last year, and we have. Most people do it in 2 or 3. We do have a crew. Everyone goes out for that one. Everyone goes out Thursday. Okay. Some people finish, Friday morning in the wee hours of the morning or that next day. I'm sorry, they don't.
You must not get a lot of sleep during all of this.
I don't, and I'm working on that this year because that's been one of the hardest things since I started hosting these longer routes and dot watching and make sure all the little ducks out there are safe, and if making sure that I'm available to go. I advertise it as self-sufficient, but obviously if I get the call, someone's broken a leg, I'm running out there to help EMS and contact, get them help, get them to the hospital, work with family to come get them, things like that. It is a lot of sleeplessness for that whole weekend. I've enlisted some help this year to help manage that piece. So, I have some people with immense bikepacking experience who are probably going to take over that piece so I can go take a nap and function when I need to for, the other 450 to 500 people that are going to show up for Saturday riding.
Do you stage some of that hidden support out near where things might go sideways for folks, or is it, do you really just wait for calls?
I wait and hope I don't get the call. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I've been very fortunate because I think the people who are signing up for these longer routes, they understand the self-sufficiency part, and they've probably done other events where there may be, I think GRUSK may spoil people because there is so much support. There are some events out there that are bikepacking centric, and you're
Mm-hmm.
just, people
Yeah.
will watch dots, but no one's coming to get you.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
gonna
You
have
got
to
to
figure
figure
it
it
out
out.
yourself, and
Yeah.
and that's part of the bikepacking ethos. I think you're self-sufficient. You're figuring it out, and especially for a big event in a remote area, you have to have some level of self-sufficiency. But if that SOS button gets hit, people are coming to get you.
Yeah. I actually keep SOS on my InReach. I have the Garmin insurance with the flight stuff and all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
that's smart.
It's important. It's real cheap. It's like $40 a year once you have an InReach. So it's kind of,
Yeah,
why would you not do that when you could get
yeah,
a $75,000 flight out of with a helicopter? Somebody has to come get you.
yeah.
That would be just miserable.
Super important. I used to do that when with the American Alpine Club when I alpine climbed a lot, and
Yeah.
I'd rather pay the membership fee and let the helicopter come
Yeah.
get me for next to nothing rather than pay
100%.
the tens of thousands of dollars. So smart man.
100%. Okay, so let's talk tech. Let's get into some of the nitty and the gritty. The West Virginia gravel. It's going to range from smooth roads to, if you're out on one of these longer bikepacking adventures, you're going to see some chunk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep that same dichotomy, and let's just talk about tire debate. For the festival, the 1-day races, what's the sweet spot for a tire for those folks that want to make sure they're riding the right thing?
So anymore, I recommend 40, 42 as the minimum. I mean, it's not going to slow you down. I think that myth has been busted. It's all about comfort. If you're comfortable, you can be out there longer and have more fun. That's the way I
100%.
look at that. Now, when I started doing these routes, we were riding on 28s or even 32s and 35s until our frames got bigger or big enough to fit those bigger tires. The good thing about the day routes, the festival routes at GRUSK, is they're all U.S. government Forest Service roads. And unless the Forest Service has been through there in the last month to chew things up and regrade the roads, they're buff smooth. So you could get away with a very, low knobby file tread, maybe 35 millimeter tire, but why would you?
Why would you? Yeah.
Why would you?
Yeah.
I ride right now. I'm riding 2.1s. I have some old mezcals on my gravel rig, and it's so comfy. And I don't notice any speed difference.
I don't think folks that are in our Discord GTD After Hours, I've talked about it there, and I've shared pictures of my experiments with tires of late. But some days back, I went 50, and once I realized that bike performed actually probably better on those fatter tires, I'm never going back. I'm never going back to a 42 or a 38. It just makes no sense. Those 50s treat me just right. And I've been very happy with the Terrabills. Washburns, they have a new 700 by 50, a Gen 2, which is 120 thread.
Wow, nice.
But still a durable casing, and I have found it to be just right, folks, just right. And it's a relatively inexpensive tire compared to some of the money you can drop on tires today. So,
oh my goodness, it's ridiculous.
Don't
get me started on tire prices.
Yeah, that's what sent me on the let's try to find the cheapest and best quality tire to save folks money. And American Classics, they started off, but they ended up choo-choo. It was bad.
That's too bad. They were always such a good wheel company, and then they got into the tire business, and I haven't tried it.
It
probably won't.
At first, it was great. But at about 1,000 miles, I looked down and the tread had just worn away. And I've never worn out the tread on a gravel tire. And it shouldn't happen. And I don't know. It could have been a one-off. I could have been rolling the wrong tire, but I really would have expected more than 1,000 miles. And I avoided catastrophe by keeping my eyes on it, I believe. But I'm very, very happy with those Terrabills. I was glad to see the Washburn line go to a 50 because that's a new size from this year as well. So,
good
so we got some hills. What are we talking about from folks that are do you have still people that show up sort of under geared, or have you finally moved to an era where people are realizing that drivetrains need to have a little bit of room for climbing?
Yeah, I mean, people still show up under geared, but here's what I've always said. I think I probably said this on the first time you had me on the podcast was, you can almost get off the couch and come ride GRUSK, because we do have some hills. But the grade on those hills, it's kind of an all-day kind of grade. It might be 4 to 5%, but it's going to be several miles long. But it's as hard as you want to make it. It's not a wall that you have to climb up. That is hard no matter what. So people do show up under geared. We have people show up on Dick's Sporting Goods bikes, and I think that's what I see that, and that's
great.
It warms my heart because they're out riding, and they're running what they're brung, and I have so much respect for that.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter. That's their bike, and they're going to come ride it at GRUSK. Beautiful.
And I will say, it's never been easier, friends, to dip your toe into gravel. And honestly, it's never been easier to dip your toe into bikepacking. And I'll say it, the Walmart, the Ozark Trails, those gravel bikes, they're legit. They're upgradable. If you're just thinking about it, and you got $300 or $400 to drop on a gravel bike, and that's it. That's all you got, and you just want to try it and see. That's what the price point is. It's crazy. It's crazy that it's capable. And the biggest thing is that it's upgradable. It's not the old big box store bikes where you're basically the life cycle is about 300 or 400 miles and then it falls apart, and it would be more expensive to try to fix it than it would be to just go buy another one. That's not the Ozark Trail gravel bikes. So
that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, all that trickle down technology.
We've had folks, and I think that was the Walmart folks getting on board out in Bentonville with all of the bike culture. I think you're seeing a really tremendous thing that's come out of that. And I've had folks, I think we had a couple last year, Ozark Trail bikes on ESR that did the 550 miles from all the way across New York State.
Wow.
So definitely check that out.
Definitely. Yeah, that's wonderful. So last year we had someone show up on a Strider bike. I'm not sure what they're called, but it looks like the old Nordic track.
Was it an Elliptigo?
It's almost like, yes, that's exactly what the Elliptigo.
Yeah.
And this person was intent on starting GRUSK on that. And I think,
I don't know. Finish GRUSK on that? That's the big question.
This person rode another bike for the event. So,
okay.
They came early, tried it out on the road, and this just as well as I do, the road in and out of the venue is the worst part that's the worst road that you have in GRUSK, next to the grassy 100%. Downhill. Yeah, it's just, it's expensive for a nonprofit to maintain a whole mile of road. So you get some chunky stuff. But I think she tried her Elliptigo and it was not. It's not going to happen. And I think Dave Pryor and I looked at each other and I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
Points for trying. Because
she brought it.
Get weird with your bikes, folks.
I loved it.
Weird with your bikes. That's the thing to do. Who cares if it works?
I really wanted this person to finish that.
It would have been impressive just to actually get down the hill on the Elliptigo. Because I can imagine there were some spots where it bottomed out and it was probably teetering at high center going over some of those.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I really want it to be a fixie too. So it's just always going. I'm not sure if that's how those work or not, but
hey, do you GRUSK e-bike friendly?
GRUSK is very e-bike friendly. Yeah. The National Forest has opened up e-bikes. I think I'm horrible with the classes. It's the class that everybody has on their e-bike.
Class 3, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Class 3. I think it's there's 3 classes: class 1, class 2, class 3, and I think it's 1 and 3. Are the I can't. I'm with you.
Maybe class 2 is a motorcycle. I don't know.
I don't.
Maybe it has a throttle. One has a throttle. One goes very fast.
Yeah.
Either way, yes, e-bike friendly. We have a lot of folks, and we recommend it. just make sure you got the battery for the route you're going on, because those e-bikes
Mhm.
are heavy if you gotta push them
100%.
up the hills.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we have people drop
Absolutely.
e-bike batteries at the aid stations. They'll go out and do the 89-mile route and drop an extra battery at the aid station.
If you figure out how to work your batteries, I think we have people on ESR again every year that are e-bikes, and we've seen them evolve into something that is quite different than what they've been in the past. And I think e-bikes, whether you love them or hate them, they're bikes.
Yeah.
Get used to it, folks.
It gets people outside. Like, we do tours in Europe about once a year, and I recommend e-bikes. If you're not feeling it, get on
Yeah.
an e-bike. You're there to have fun.
You're there to see the
and
scenery. You're there to do a
same with
thing.
GRUSK. Come have fun.
Yeah.
If you're there and you want to race your buddy, party on. But if you're there to have a good time and still have energy for the after party, ride your e-bike.
Yeah. I've got a couple more questions, because the multi-day bikepacking thing kind of really intrigues me for a lot of different reasons. What is the resupply look like on any of those routes? Are there resupply points, or is this one of those? Okay, there are.
Yep. Yeah, we have it's a pretty solid resupply. So, we mentioned the town of Durban already. That's one of the core resupplies on the route. So in the northern section, we have Thomas and Davis. We also have the town of Parsons. So Parsons, it's a cool little town in the valley below Davis and Thomas, where the Blackwater meets the Dry Fork and forms the Cheat River. So it's another one of those cool little river towns. But they also have a Kingsford charcoal. So if you burn Kingsford charcoal, it's made right there in
Really?
in Parsons, West Virginia. Yeah, you
Didn't
ride
know
by
that.
the factory. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's cool.
So, great resupply. They have a McDonald's there. If you're into that kind of thing,
Stuffed double cheeseburgers in those jersey pockets, maybe. Of course.
Put it in your top tube bag.
Yeah,
fill it full of fries.
Yes, 100%.
Just don't sleep next to your bike if you're going to do that, because the bears will get you.
Oh, they're just little baby bears.
They are. They're so cute. Just, hi, Mr. Bear. Here's a French fry. But yeah, there's resupplies. Down in there's a resupply in Greenbank. There's a Dollar General there, along with your observatory. You hit that one early in our routes, so you can stop there. And they usually have some type of some neutral aid there too. So they're giving out candy and things.
I have had many a meal from Adology. So yeah.
Me too.
Yeah,
they're everywhere here.
Yeah.
So there's, and then our longer routes go through some state parks, and depending on when you're going through those, you can hit vending machines, things like that. And the town of Marlinton, which I think you've probably been through Marlinton several times. It's a great town. A lot of good like down home restaurants and some coffee shops and some sweet shops and gas stations. There's plenty to keep you going. There is a stretch between Durban and Durban and Parsons, where there's a little bit of a drought there. So one of the former directors of the nonprofit that we leased the venue from lives on the route. So she opens up her yard and her home, and we drop neutral aid off, and she'll have water and other goodies that she'll put out. And sometimes they're home, sometimes they're not. But even if they're not home, we have neutral aid there. And then on the way back, we have neutral aid that we stash at the Whitmer Fire Department. So there's lots of resupplies.
Yeah, it sounds like there's in a place where there's not a lot, you've plotted that course to give people as much as you can, so there's plenty for them. Because I know that's one of the things that help. The lighter you can pack, the faster you can move, and the more nimble you are. And I think that's huge. That's huge. Resupply along the way is a big game changer, in my opinion, for long distance bikepacking adventures.
And there's some folks who've been doing GRUSK for quite a few years on the bikepacking routes, and they have it dialed in. So they're professionals. One of those is Chris Joyce, and he was born in West Virginia. Phenomenal bikepacker, single speed bikepacker. He's one of the ones who finished the 318-mile Tricento route in just over a day. Just amazing beast. but he knows where to find a good pepperoni roll. So if you've been to
Okay.
West Virginia,
Oh
you
man,
know how important our pepperoni rolls
you're
are.
dipping into my this or that's there, buddy. That's
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It just shows that my thought process
Yes.
is on the money.
Yes.
How many of the folks do you have registered for those distance events now at this point?
Right now we have just under 50, but
Okay.
that'll start picking up as, people figure out that they have the legs or not, or,
Yeah.
a lot of it's buddy dependent. If there's, we have a lot of smaller groups who will go out and just ride together or camp together. Everybody rides their own pace, and then they collect themselves at night and, camp out together. So that makes for a really fun trip.
We know you get at least got a handful, but the majority of folks, are they camping a night or two, or how many
Yes.
of those folks are just like plowing straight through?
I would say it's probably 25 to 30% are plowing straight through.
Okay.
And then you have the others who are camping, and you have
Okay.
some people in the middle. Like they want to go fast, but they brought a sleeping bag or a bivvy sack, and a stove just in case.
Okay.
So you have that mix too. So there's 3 categories, but most of the folks are either in the, I'm not taking anything, I'm pushing straight through, or you have the folks who are taking, the camping gear, and there's opportunities for credit card camping on those
Okay.
routes too. I think you
Okay.
could do that pretty easily with a little bit of planning, and
That's
calling ahead
helpful
to
as
make
well.
sure there's somewhere it's
Yeah.
not sold out.
Because that's legit, I think, in today's world.
Mhm.
I think that's something that's actually pretty smart. If you're out for a long trip and you want to do a couple of nights in a tent, man, just find yourself someplace to sleep indoors for one night
Yeah.
out of 4 or 5,
Yeah.
because it'll make
Try your stuff out.
all the difference in the world. Okay, so I've got some lightning round bike packers of GRUSK, this or that kind of things. But these are not this or that's. But
Okay.
I want to jump into them. And I think we've just hit on a few of them. So if we've hit on, just give me your first take. Top 2 bag or a bar bag?
Top 2 bag.
Bivvy, hammock, or just take a dirt nap? Ooh, that's that dirt nap. No dirt naps.
Please, no dirt naps. Make sure it's a good one, because we don't want to find you, because that's too much liability. That's when the insurance gets involved.
Let's just say bivvy, hammock, or tent. How's that?
Tent.
One luxury item that you should never, ever leave behind when you're overnighting in the Mon.
Wow. I'm going to say, I'm terrible at this. I like my pillow.
Yes.
Pillow.
Yeah. 100%. That's
a couple ounces, but man,
that's
alive.
one of mine. That's one of mine. Yeah. Best gas station snack found in rural West Virginia, and you just hit it.
It is, and I will tell you where to find it. It's the pepperoni roll, and there's a gas station between Thomas and Davis. On the long routes, and they have the best homemade pepperoni rolls. Now, every gas station or every bakery is going to tell you that theirs is the best, but this one is top notch. It's awesome.
Okay, we'll have to actually give me the GPS coordinates for that, and I'll drop it in the show notes. Full frame bag or 2 water bottles in the triangle?
I go 2 water bottles.
Okay. Mechanical shifting or electronic shifting for a 300-mile mountain race?
Mechanical.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the things that my working has that I am not crazy about. So I've gone back to a mechanical on a mountain bike frame with big tires. So
single speed if you're Chris Joyce.
Good grief. Tell me, does he really do that in single speed?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there's something about stuff not breaking. There's something to be
breaking
said.
And
something to be said.
And on the flats and downhills, you're spinning it out and resting on a single speed.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you were involved with the development of the whole Mon Forest network. Tell us how that came about and what your involvement is, if there is any ongoing.
Yeah. So that came about through some grants, and it was administered through the Mon Forest Towns Partnership. So the Mon Forest Towns Partnership is a 12-town partnership of mountain towns, or throughout the Mon. It is what it says it is. So they came together to pool their resources for tourism, and to promote their towns. Through this partnership, one of the new and upcoming draws for tourism in the Mon is obviously gravel cycling,
Mm-hmm.
and they recognize that. So they put out a bid for someone to come and create a gravel and bikepacking network. And they weren't sure exactly what they wanted, but they had seen other places do this, so they wanted something similar. So, our good friend David Landis, who,
Great guy.
he is the boss at doing these things. So, he was the prime who won the bid, and rightfully so. He is a pro at this. So he asked me, on my experience in the Mon and hosting GRUSK for all these years to be a part of it. So I was on the front end, helped him map a few things out, but he's an amazing cartographer and
Yeah.
mapper. He's
Yeah.
all things, ride with GPS and bikes and maps and amazing, trail network master. He brought me in to do a lot of the community outreach on the front end. So that was a big piece of this project where you might not see this in other projects. We actually went to all 12 towns. I think, well, we went to most of the 12 towns that we could. A couple
Mm-hmm.
it didn't work out because they didn't have availability. And met with their town councils, met with citizens. We opened it up to a public meeting in these 12 towns and talked about what we're doing and asked for their input. I mean, where's your favorite place to ride? What are the stories you have? Tell us something interesting about your town or these roads. And, we had so much feedback from that initial piece of this project that it helped craft what became, one of the largest, if not the largest, route network on the East Coast. It's huge.
Amazing. It's amazing. It's absolutely looking at the maps and you really I think for me going to the Mon Forest Town's website and going through the bike packing and the gravel stuff that they have there and seeing how the routes all interact and you can pick your distances or the dates.
Yeah.
It's just it's so well done. It's so well
they
done.
did I can't take credit for any of that, but Ride with GPS and Noelle Battle, she's
Mhm.
the director of bikepackingroutes.org. She was instrumental in that piece of it. How it appears and how it's presented to the user and the public and where it's going to live. So
Absolutely fantastic.
and we've had some amazing support from Sam Canary and Josh Neese, who are at the Mon Forest Towns Partnership. They've
Okay.
really helped, pour some resources into this and shape it to be what it is. And of course, we've had some other folks who were super instrumental in mapping these thousands of miles out
Well,
along the way.
it is such a gem. And one of the things that I think is so interesting is as we're having this conversation, you can come to GRUSK and that can be your entree into what the Mon Forest Network has to offer
Yes.
because you're going to
Yeah.
get a good flavor of what that is. And then you can come back and explore it at some point in the future. And all you got to do is go to that Mon Forest Town's website and find a
Yeah.
route. And find a route, find a cool place to stay.
Exactly.
Doesn't have to be overnight. Just get out there and enjoy it because it's absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So Travis, I'm going to recap the dates, the distances, and all of that stuff, and then we're going to jump over into this or that. So it's July 9th through July 12th with the one-day main event, those festival rides happening on July 11th. But as you just heard, you're encouraged to come earlier, so please do.
Please do.
Spruce Knob Mountain Center in Circleville, West Virginia. Keep in mind, folks, that the race HQ there is at almost 4,000 feet. So as we discussed earlier, it's going to be chilly at night. Some specific start times, the multi-day ultras, the bikepacking events, if I get any of these wrong, holler at me. The Tricento, the 319 miles, that starts Thursday morning. Is that correct? And the Lungo, the 260, starts just a little bit later in the morning on Thursday at 8 a.m. The Venti, the 220, you've got here is Friday, the 10th at 7 a.m. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if you're casually bikepacking, everyone can start Thursday on those. But if you're going for time, we start the 318, the Tricento on Thursday, and then the 260 and the 220 they go out Friday. So we plan that to everyone be back right around dinner time. That's on Saturday. That's the plan. Yes.
Okay. And the festival race is the one day, the Grande, what is it, 89 miles?
Yes.
Not quite 100 miles. That's 7:30. And then we tick it off the 50s at 8:30 and then the 25 and the 30 at 9:30. So, but
we
come
moved
early.
those all up a little bit. Yeah.
I may be there Wednesday when you roll in, Travis.
That would be wonderful. I would love to see a smiling face when I roll up. I'll try not to put you to work too much.
I am very seriously, I'm hopeful that my schedule works out, because I would really love to come in on Wednesday, give you a hand, help out where I can with some of those longer races if they need it, because we got some very close friends, Larry and Casey, are both doing that. So to be in the vicinity for them if they need it, but also there to help you. It's my hope and my plan at this point in the game. So
man, I'll give you a T-shirt.
Hopefully it all stays together, keeps together. And folks, remember the cell phone service is non-existent, and stick around for the after party. That's the biggest thing. Stick around. You don't have to be anywhere till Sunday afternoon. So, okay, you ready for some this or that's? We're going to dip back into a familiar territory right here. What would you rather have, find the pepperoni roll at a gas station or finding a single bar of LTE cell service out in the middle of nowhere?
I'm going with the pepperoni roll.
Pepperoni roll, because the expectation is you're not going to have any cell service. So who cares? Give me the pepperoni roll.
That's right.
A face-to-face encounter with a black bear, or a silent staring contest with the Mothman, or what you think is the Mothman in a fog-covered evening.
Oh man, I'm going to tell you a secret here. I am so afraid of the dark. This has been something I've carried from childhood. So if I saw like the Mothman staring back at me, that would be it. I'd probably die on the spot. Or the next bridge I rode across would collapse, and that would be the end of Travis. But who doesn't want to see the Mothman? I would go with the Mothman. It would be a life-changing experience. I might not survive it.
To a black bear, and they're gone. They run away. You'll never see them again.
I mean, we have our own legend on Spruce Knob. But the Mothman would be pretty awesome.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. The spruce knob wind trying to blow you off the mountain, or the spruce knob gnats trying to fly up your nose?
I'll take the wind.
Take the wind. I hate the bugs.
Yeah, I cannot stand bugs.
I've never really had a bug issue when I'm out there. I don't think that's
up that high. You'll get a few mosquitoes, but I mean, when you drop down into Whitmer, that's the lowest point of the routes, and you're next to the water. You might get a few mosquitoes or horse flies, but not up at the venue. I think just because it stays cool. We get rid of the bugs there. It's amazing.
Don't know if I've ever had
bug-free event.
Now this is from a couple of years ago. I think the last time I rode it. Mountain fog that's so thick you can't see your front wheel. Thank God for blinking lights. Or fog in your glasses so thick that you can't see the road.
I'll take the glasses because I can dip the glasses off if I have to. The fog that year was a little bit scary.
Yeah, especially at that point where you're still climbing up Spruce Knob, and then there's other rush. So you're like, is that a white light? Yes, it's a white light. It's coming down. So it's
everybody to the right. Everybody to the right.
So everybody, remember your blinky lights, please, because they're open roads. They're open roads too. Yeah. So make sure that you remember your front and rear blinky lights, because those white ones on the front can be just as crucial with any kind of two-way traffic if that fog happens like it did a couple of years ago. Yeah, so
that was a cloud. Legit cloud.
Pro tip.
Thank you.
Well, listen, thank you, Travis. How can folks find out about more? Registration is obviously open. How can they get there to register? Where do they need to go?
So mountainrides.net/GRUSK will get you there. bikereg.com/GRUSK will get you to the registration site the quickest. And in the event notes, we have very informative event notes, which nobody reads, but we type them out every year anyway. So
I'm getting better at it.
Please ask me all the questions.
I'm getting better at
about doing this.
I'm notorious for it. I don't read my event notes.
Oh, I am too. I'm a horrible participant.
I'm getting better. I've realized that there was a lot of things. I just went up and did Lulaca, and there was a lot of things I didn't know, but I read the show notes. I read the event notes that Pat put together. And so I had answers to all these questions that other people were asking. So I felt pretty good about that.
It's good to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yep. that doesn't happen with me very often.
Just because you're literate.
Okay, this is the part where Joey usually takes over, but we are going to go ahead and shut this thing down. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mid-Atlantic Gravel Travel and Dirt, recorded right here in my kind of place where I've got bike parts laying all around me, which is kind of a cool thing to have. All the way up to Travis, where are you tonight?
I'm in Monongah, West Virginia, in my office.
Monongah, West Virginia.
Monongah.
So the website for us folks, graveltraveldirt.com, and that is where you can go to find the entry point to our Discord server, GTD After Hours. Make sure you go check it out. You get 30 days free, and then it's just $5 a month, and you get access to a whole bunch of people and a whole lot of conversation and a lot of fun. If you got questions, a lot of folks have answers. We've actually had a lot of really good helping of people back and forth and sharing of that. And we already had our first meetup, and we have our second meetup already planned, thanks to Casey. That is in the middle of June and in Rothrock. Awesome. Nice. Instagram, we are at Mid-Atlantic GTD. Thanks for riding along, everybody. And until next time, do good, be nice, go slow, respect others.
Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.